Greetings. This is Robert Messina, and we're up to chapter 6. And before I want to start chapter 6, I want to go to the end of chapter 5 and read that to you. Then said Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto Haman. So the wife is saying, let a gallows, and that's simply saying a tree, be made 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. So the feast, there was going to be a feast set for him the next day. Haman and the king were the only men allowed to go there, allowed to be at that little banquet that they're going to have. Haman was just excited. He still hated Mordecai the Jew, and he's still going out with his plan to have everybody, all Jews, destroyed, killed, destroyed, and perished. All. The whole thing. Everybody. From the river to the sea. Everybody that's Jewish is dead. Now, they don't even I don't know if they realized that if that occurred and that did happen, and Haman got his way and all the Jews died, we wouldn't have a savior. They didn't know what the heck they were agreeing to. I talk enough about Haman. I don't want to keep talking about him. This idea of his wife and his wise men, his friends, pleased Haman to do this. And he caused the gallows to be made. I explained that third day that she started fasting and started to do all of these things, that was the Feast of First Fruits, and 50 days after that we were going to have the Day of Pentecost. More details is going to be chapter 5 if you didn't read it. Now chapter 6, the first verse. And that night the king could not sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. All right, so that book of records of the Chronicles, that's got an aleph and a tav before it, and it reminded me of the books that are going to be opened on Judgment Day. Let's go to Revelation 20:12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. So anybody who thinks that they're going to follow the Torah and do everything right, the letter, if they do one thing wrong, like Moses struck the rock twice, he wasn't allowed into the promised land. One little thing. He disobeyed Moses that time. He got angry that time. And he got judged that time, and it was a severe judgment. And what I'm getting at is that the believing in Jesus and accepting his grace and his forgiveness, just accepting that, believing that, is the biggest thing you can do. Then you get to know how he loves you, and as he loves you, you will start to love him back. So we love him because he loved us first. And that's the way it does. And because you love him, you do works. And you do obey him. And you do listen. And you do good things. Because he asks you to do good things. Doesn't he? Chapter 6, verse 2. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, which are two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on King Ahasuerus. All right, so That was something that Mordecai did for the king. It saved the king's life because these two guys wanted to kill him. This happened actually in Esther chapter 2, verse 21. And I'll read that to you. I'll go over it. I've already, when we were in chapter 2, I said this already, but let's do it again because it's very important for the salvation of Mordecai, and because of the salvation of Mordecai, the salvation of all the Jews, because that's what Esther and Mordecai had set up and were accomplished. And we're going to see that in chapter 7. This is chapter 6. This is still not Esther is taking a hold of what she has to do, and she's obeying, and she's not committing a sin of omission. She's committing an act of commission that is a good act, a good thing to do. She's doing her part in what is required of her. Now, Bigthan, that name translated as wine press. And that individual, that chamberlain of the king that sits in the gate, that guy plays Herodias. And we'll talk about Herodias in Luke. And then Teres, whose name translates as strictness, he plays Herod. All right, so there's a female and a male, and to eunuchs, it doesn't matter. They are as angels, and they can go either way with who they're representing. Those two guys, of those which kept the door, were wrathful, had hatred in them, and sought to lay hand on King Ahasuerus. And Mordecai, who sits in the gate, sees this all happening, and he tells Esther. Esther tells the king, and they write it down, but they forget about it. All right? And now that the king can't sleep, he wanted to see if there was anything he could do to honor somebody. And that's why he orders the books, and the books are opened, and they find that Mordecai saved the king's life by having these two guys killed. Okay, let's go to Luke 3, start at 19. But Herod the Tetrarch, being reproved by J.B., remember, it's Mordecai's playing John the Baptist, for Herodias, his brother's wife. Now, Herodias was the winepress guy. And for all the evils which Herod has done. So Herod gets chastised by John the Baptist for all the evils, including marrying his brother's wife. All right? And then let's go to Acts 12, 21 through 23. So this is what's going to happen to Herod now. And upon a set day, Herod, arrayed in royal apparel, sat upon his throne, and made oration unto them. And the people gave a shout, saying, It is the voice of a God, and not of a man. And immediately the angel of the Lord, who was Gabriel, smote Herod. He gave not God the glory. He was eaten of worms and gave up the ghost. Now, that was the judgment on Herod. Now, what about Herodias, who's the winepress? When we find in Revelation, there's a place for those that are in the winepress. They are judged in the winepress. Revelation 14:19, and the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress. Now this is part of the wrath of God. All right, so that's what happens to her, Herodias. And it wasn't Philip that his brother Philip, that he wasn't chastised, at least in the book. In this book, in Acts, he hasn't been chastised, so we don't know. I mean, he didn't do any sinful thing. His wife is who committed the sinful thing. Okay, Philip didn't do it. Philip just had a bad marriage. Okay, verse 3. And the king said, "What honor and dignity has been done to Mordecai for this?" So they read the books. They see the Acts. They see there is something there, and Mordecai's got his name on it of what he did. And then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, "There is nothing done for him, nothing." So verse 4. And the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house, and he was there. If you remember that he was going to speak to the king early to have Mordecai hung from the gallows. And that's where he is right now. That's why he's out in the outer court to speak to the king. And so to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. That phrase, to hang Mordecai on the gallows, that's got an aleph and a tav within the phrase. It's part of a whole phrase. Okay. Verse 5. And the king's servant said unto him, Behold, Haman stands in the court. And the king said, Let him come in. 6. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, What shall be done unto the man whom the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, To whom would the king delight to honor more than myself? Now, don't forget now, Haman is playing the part of AC the man. He's playing AC the man, Antichrist the man, the beast. I'll talk more about this later. So to him, to AC the man, his king is the red dragon, who gives him his power and authority. Haman has a king who he honors and who he looks up to, and it's not the king of Persia, Median Persia. It's not him. Who is Jesus, who plays Jesus. So I wanted to let you guys know that Haman right now is thinking that his God, King, the dragon, is going to honor him. Let's go to Revelation 13, 1 and 2. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon each of his heads a name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as a mouth of a lion. And the red dragon gave him his power and his seat and his great authority. All right, so I put the word in red. It doesn't say red. It says, and the dragon gave him. And I have this, I put the 2 pictures, one of the red dragon, okay, which is not spotted leopard. So there are 2 beasts. They often get confused. They're very similar. And it's like the Father and the Son. All right? And the beast that comes up out of the sea in Revelation has 7 heads, 10 horns. Upon those horns are 10 crowns, and each of his head has a name of blasphemy. And blasphemy is speaking profane to God. It's like equating God to an idol would be blasphemous. To a stone, that's blasphemy. And calling yourself God is blasphemy. Well, that's why they wanted to stone Jesus when he said, before Abraham ever was, I am. They wanted to stone him because of blasphemy. And it would have been blasphemy if he wasn't the Son of God. So anyway, this beast is like a leopard, spots, feet of a bear, they claw, they catch fish with their claws. And the mouth of a lion. Now that's where AC the man comes in, Haman. That's where AC the man is. He's got a mouth of a lion, and he speaks. A lion speaks, but a lion roars. He doesn't have words. He just roars and puts fear into the world. And as far as his mouth goes, he's got these big teeth that he devours you with his mouth. All right? He's totally wicked, and he's totally loveless, and he does not care about you. And just like the dragon doesn't care about you, just like the serpent doesn't care about you. But anyway, that beast got his power and his seat and his great authority from the red dragon, who came before him and won. By the way, the 7th head of that dragon is the beast, is this beast itself. Those are 7 empires that came up. I wanted to also let you know that there's a distinction between Mystery Woman Babylon, who rides on the red dragon, and the empire who was the head at that time. This empire, this beast with this leopard beast, is the 7th head of that empire, and the mouthpiece of that is Haman in the form of Antichrist the man. All right? Because the Antichrist the man is going to defile the holy place and exalt himself as God in the very middle of the 7 years, the 1,290 days, which is the middle and a half. Now, I wanted to read more about the beast and those 10 horns of the dragon and of the beast. And the beast that was and is not. Now, was an entity that was and is not is like the sun. The sun is, I think it's that was and is not and yet is. That phrase represents the sun. And the sun is a thing that is worshipped, and it's one of the biggest idolatrous things that men have. Whenever somebody worships an idol, it doesn't matter if God created it or not. If you're worshiping an empty thing and you're not worshiping Him, God, He says, I'm a jealous God. I don't want any God before me. I don't want any small g God, empty, vain, nothing God that can't hear. And that's what was going on with His bride of Samaria and His bride of Jerusalem. They were both idolatrous, and they both had the sin of idolatry. And that's what, and God is letting us know He doesn't like it. Okay, first we'll read 17, 11, and 13. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goes into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. And that moment hasn't come yet. That's going to be when we get to the judgment of the mystery woman, mother of harlots. And the harlotry that she's a mother of are idols. She's the mother of idols, and whenever somebody worships an idol, they are a daughter of the mystery woman Babylon. So you can be a man and be a whore because you're promoting an idol as God. It's not limited to females, but it's limited to females in the actual sense of being a whore. Anyway, those 10 kings have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast during that hour that they have. And you remember the merchants are saying, they're crying and saying, in 1 hour, everything you're demolished in 1 hour. You burn. They're seeing him. Let's go to 16 for that. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, wicked but not Satan, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Now the reason I separated that, I'm trying to point out that the whore is wicked, for sure, but she's not Satan himself. Satan and this woman, the whorish woman, are 2 separate evil entities, and they both get judged separately. All right? The end of the dragon and the end of the beast, lake of fire. The end of mystery woman Babylon, they burn her with fire as well. But she's sort of like, she represents the world, and the dragon represents the rulership of the world. See how they're not exactly the same. Now we have to come out of the world. Come out of her, my people, speaking about mystery woman Babylon. Be ye in the world, yes, you were born here, but not of the world, because you came out of the world. You're called, everybody's got to be called out of the world. And that call out means church. Okay, let's verse 7. And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delights to honor. Now he's still thinking it's him that the king wants to honor. Verse 8, let the royal apparel be brought which the king uses to wear, and the horse, that's the first horse, I'll get back to that the king rides upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. Okay, now notice that there's a first horse and there's a second horse. The second horse, you're talking about, Revelation has a chapter 6, in which you see a white horse, and it has a chapter 19 which has a white horse as well, and that's going to reference the second horse. So the white horse is for the Antichrist. Anti means instead of, before. When you eat antipasta, you're eating a small meal, before you eat the pasta. All right? So that's why it's called antipasta, before the pasta. It's the best way I can explain it. It's also, Revelation also has a white horse a second time, who Jesus is on. It's absolutely Jesus, the Word. He's got the Word. He's got the two-edged sword. He's got the many crowns. This guy the first horse only has one crown. And let's read that, what he says. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. So the bow is given to this first white horse because he's going to conquer. He needs it to conquer. All right, and we're gonna find out that the beast in Revelation 13 conquers and overcomes. He conquers He conquers and overcomes saints of God. Us. He's the enemy. So anyway, there's two horses. One comes before. The first one comes. I want to make sure that this is said, because when I saw the first horse and I saw him described, I thought it was Jesus, and I've heard other people, after I realized it wasn't, I've heard other people mention it like that too. It's a common mistake. But the real guy can't deceive you as the elect, because he can't deceive the elect. If he could, he would be able to do it, but he can't. Okay, let's go to 6, chapter 9. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delights to honor, and to bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him. So that I highlighted that proclaim, because that has to do with heralding somebody special, and somebody that the king is wanting people to honor and admire. Now that parallels with Revelation 13, 4 and 5. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? So that proclaiming and worshipping, and they worshipped the beast. Who is like unto the beast? Revelation 13:7 says, And it was given him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Verse 10, Then the king said to Haman, Make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sits at the king's gate, and let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. So there are two Aleph and Tavs in verse 10. Take the apparel, and then there's a phrase, and the horse, as thou hast said. Both of them, the apparel and the horse, both have an Aleph and a Tav before them. And then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall it be done unto the king, thus shall it be done unto whom the king delights to honor. So he's doing it, he's going through the motions, but his heart is not doing that right now. And you see how it says, Then took Haman the apparel, that has an Aleph and a Tav in front of it. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, an Aleph and a Tav, within that phrase. So actually there's one before the apparel and one before the horse. And also there's an Aleph and a Tav in the phrase, arrayed Mordecai. Okay, verse 12, Ester 6, verse 12. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate. So he was just paraded through the streets as with honor and with dignity and praise from the king, and having the people praise him as well. And when it's all said and done, he goes back to the king's gate, and he does what he does, And it doesn't say that he's still arrayed in sackcloth, but I don't see, it's not the everything Esther is doing, and the people are fasting and praying, and nothing really has changed as far as the decree goes. And until that decree is done away with, the fear, the threat of death to all the Jews is gone. Until that day, they're still going to be just like the people of Nineveh, praying and fasting until the king says, okay, 40 days are up. Okay, now, the second half of that verse, but Haman hasted to his house, mourning and having his head covered. Now that triggered me to the fact that many religions, men cover their heads with a cap. Okay? And Jews do too. Now, I don't see it in the Tanakh anywhere where it wants us to cover our heads, except Psalm 140, and I'll get to that. But I do want to point this out. I mean, if it was important enough for Paul to point it out about wearing a head covering and not wearing a head covering, as whether you're a man or a woman or what to do, all of that has a logical reason for what he's saying. Okay, so let's go to 1 Corinthians 11, 3 through 5. But I would have you know that the head of man is Christ, and the head of women is man, and the head of Christ is Abba, says God. I say Abba. All right? So that's the hierarchy, that's the order. Jesus has a head over him who is his father. We have a head over us who is Jesus, and the woman has a head over her who is her husband, and the child has a head over him who is a mother. All right. Now every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head. But every woman that prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. So she has to have it covered. We have to have it uncovered. Now let's go back to Psalm 140, verse 7. It says, O God, the Lord, strength of my salvation, thou hast covered my head in day of battle. Now, I'm seeing that covering of the head in the day of battle as part of the armor of God as a warrior, and that helmet, that covering of the head is done by the helmet of salvation, which protects you from fatal blows. Because, and I say that because if you did get a fatal blow on your head, whether it be a sword or a dart or I don't know, or a rock, as long as you have that helmet of salvation on it, you're not going to die. It's not a fatal blow. You will live, and you're able to go into battle not worrying about dying, because you have the helmet of salvation. So there is a certain covering of the head that is a good thing to have. That's what I'm getting at. Okay, let's go to verse 13. And Haman told Zeresh, and her name equals gold, and the mother of harlots has a golden cup, and so that connects Zeresh with the mother of harlots, his wife, who was Haman's wife, who was Antichrist the man, because he's the empire that's on the head of the dragon, and she's riding upon the dragon. Whoever is the king of the emperor at the time that the emperor that she's riding on. In other words, if she was on she was on the dragon at the time of Babylon Empire, she would have Nebuchadnezzar as the king, as considering him as her husband. But this love affair between the wife, Mystery Woman Babylon, and the king of the empires, that marriage is never really that strong. All right? Because the fact that she's a harlot and she fornicates with all the kings, you can't really have a strong love for her. She's friendly. She's a mutual. She's there for business, making things work. But she's not loved, and he doesn't love her. It says he has no desire for women. And right now, this verse 13, she's going to basically divorce Haman in a sense. She's already accepting the fact that Haman's going to die. Now that's why I have it here. 13. And Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends, everything that had befallen him. That everything had befallen him phrase, it has an aleph in the top. Okay? Then said his wise men, merchants that were made rich, remember those? They're crying and weeping, in 1 hour. You're nothing. You fell such a great fell in 1 hour. Now she represents the world. She represents the world. So everybody has a certain affection for the world. Not only the merchants, everybody does. We have an affection. The whole idea of green peas, do it green, preserved, all of that. That has to do with a loving of the world, loving of this world, who's ruled by Mystery Woman Babylon, as well as the empires, okay? But we have to come out of her. Anyway, what they tell Haman, if Mordecai be of seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him. So she's saying that because she, as a ruler of this world, she knows the Jews. She knows that the Jews are like lions in the world, that they are chiefs. They're the bankers, they're the lawyers, they're the diamond dealers, they're the merchants, they're scientists, they're the leaders, and they're up in the world. They have the high places in this world. They're given that by God. God is blessing them like that. Job was a man of God, and he must have been known by Mystery Woman Babylon back in those days, because there was nobody richer than him, nobody as blessed as he was. So she sees that, okay? She's wicked, but she's not dumb. All right, now let's look a little bit closer now in Revelation 18, where she gets her judgment. 18:7. How much, now this is the merchants talking now, that are sorry that she's burning and dying. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously. Okay, so that fits her as well. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she says in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. See, that's why I'm saying there's that separation. That's really not a complete, tight husband-wife bond between the two of them. Because her husband is the Antichrist, the man, and in the middle of the tribulation, he exalts himself as God, and then he is nothing. The angels take care of him, and he dies. He dies without hand. So it's not a man that kills him, it's the angels that kill him. All right? And he's dead. And God shortens those days because 1/4 of the earth died, including all the animals and everything. And if it wasn't if those days weren't shortened, there wouldn't be anybody saved when that horror was going to be over. So the days were shortened. Just to let you know, it went from 1 year. Time went from 1 year for each seal to 1 month. And that's something I saw long ago, and I never retreated it. It still stands. I still believe it. And it fit in those days, and it still fits now to make everything work. So let's go to the last verse, 14. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chambermaids, those eunuchs, and hasted to bring Haman into the banquet that Esther had prepared for him. So now this is going to be chapter 7's. We're going to enter into chapter 7 next time I prepare everything for you guys. But the phrase there, hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet, has an aleph and a tav in that phrase, within that phrase. So let's count the alephs and the tavs that are in chapter 6 with 14 verses. There are 7 aleph and tavs pointed out. Okay? So it's 50%. Still a pretty high percentage. So, shalom, shalom, everybody. And may the angels that were there to do justice to Antichrist, the man, who tried to exalt himself above you and who had a lot to do with the saving of the people of Israel at the time of Media and Persia and Esther. And we had enough Jews to live, including the Lion of Judah, to give us our salvation and to allow a bride of Christ to be given to you. With love and shalom. Until you're prompted to watch and hear about chapter 7, Esther.